We are loved beyond measure. At some point, you just have to trust her. She loves you more than you will ever know. She wants us to love one another.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Priestess at the Altar. Let us start with the usual prayer I opened with last week, and I'll open every Sunday morning message with this same prayer moving forward. Okay, if you have comments about the prayer or requests for something different, if you would please leave a note in the comments section or when we chat during and after the episode, that'd be great. So here we go. I want you to take 3 deep breaths. I'm gonna do that practice with you. If you like, you can close your eyes, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And again. More time. Thanks. So someone in my neighborhood is doing yard work, which I'm finding terribly distracting. So I'm gonna pause for just a moment, and then I'm gonna close the window and I'm gonna come right back. Okay, that's better. Okay, so sorry about that. So now hopefully we're at least a little centered. And back in that place. It is our love and our passion, our faith that brings us here where we can spend just a little time to commune, to be still, to feel the life force of human connection, which also connects us to her. Just imagine for a moment a silver thread that connects everyone who watches or listens to this video right now or later today from different places at different times all over the world. For we have been drawn together in the light and the peace and the love of the goddess. And together, we all say, Amen Dea. Thank you. So today, I'm going to read to you from the chapel of our Mother God, the scripture of the world's first faith. And this is a book that was put out by the Philianists and the Deianists, which I actually have an episode about that's going to be on season 3 of the Girlfriend God podcast. And if you don't know what Philianism is or what Deianism is, and they're kind of inextricably linked, I would very much encourage you to, and this book was published anonymously. The women that are responsible for its publication claim to have channeled the material in it. And I would very much encourage you to visit the website mothergod.com. That's mother-god.com. And there you can read all about Philianism and Jainism until your heart's content. It's a very informative website. Or, if you don't care and you just trust me that I've chosen this book of spiritual, what the women who provided it called scripture, then just let me go with that. It is beautiful, and it is written in the style of actual scripture, so be prepared for that. Okay, so this is from an actual sermon in the book called the Sermon of the Apple Seed. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. Yeah, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to give you some highlights from which I'm going to draw today's message, which is very much about love and love being the seed of truth. Love being the seed of truth. That's kind of today's thread that I hope I can tie through whatever else I kind of babble on about, okay? Love is the seed of truth. So this is part of the Sermon of the Apple Seed from, again, the book, The Gospel of Our Mother God. From the branch of a tree, Our Lady plucked an apple, and she split the apple in two halves, so that the five-pointed star formed by its seed might be seen. And then she removed the seed representing the topmost point and held it in the palm of her hand. And she spoke, saying, like to this apple seed is all the teaching I have given and shall give to you. Like to the full apple is all the knowledge relative to your sphere of being. Like to all the other apples of the tree is the knowledge relative to all the numberless spheres. But behind these spheres lies a deeper reality, changeless beyond the impermanence, beyond the impermanent flux of time. For even as the apple turns from bud to bloom, from blossoms to the fruit, opens, matures, decays, and is reborn, so also shall the spheres and galaxies, the subtle realms, the sure and solid earth, so shall all these in their season pass away, and in their season be reborn again. Thus it has been 10,000 times before, and countless times again. Thus shall it be. But knowledge of the truth beyond this flux is like to knowledge of the tree itself, which changes not while the fruit is born and dies. Like to the spreading boughs is the love that sustains all creation, which is fallen from pure spirit. Like to the bowl is that spirit herself, from whom all creation flows. And still beneath the branches and the bowl lie the roots in the darkness, like unto she that is beyond both being and unbeing. And even as the tree's roots are not seen, so can there be no knowledge of the absolute, for to know her is to have passed beyond knowing. I think I'm going to stop there. I'll probably read a little more of this sermon towards that. I'll probably read towards the end of it. But first, so there's a lot there, right? There's a lot to be said about just that short passage that I read. First of all, I love the analogy of the apple and the seeds in the apple. I love the idea that love, I'm going to say love a lot in this episode, that love is the seed of truth, and from it comes all knowledge. I like that, I imagine her, right? Her, a version of her that you and I understand, standing at this apple tree, and all of us as her followers kind of gathered around the base of this giant, I don't know, giant redwood like they have, on the West Coast in California, this, magnificent ancient tree, or somewhere in Greece, or, there's I wish my friend Carla was here. She could tell me about this ancient tree that she went to see in, I don't even know where she was, somewhere in Greece, I think. I don't know. I'll have to ask her about it. But anyway, some giant old ancient tree that is the metaphor for kind of how it is, right? And she's trying to explain to us how it is, using this apple as the metaphor. And another thing that's really interesting about that is it is a retelling, right, of so much of what happens for us as goddess people, or people on a goddess path, or goddess worshipers, which is how I identify myself. It is a retelling of the story of the apple, right? And the story of knowledge. It is a retelling of the story of Eve, right? That knowledge isn't bad, knowledge is good. Now, there is some knowledge that we don't get to know, or at least we don't get to know now, right? There's so much imagery in this. It also reminds me of, the whole heaven and like Middle Earth, where we are, and the underworld, right? Like the roots are in the underworld, and we're not really allowed to go there as long as we're in this physical plane. I mean, there's just so much. I could dissect this whole passage, but so I'm going to try and tie this together, because one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, someone that I know watched the first episode last week and said, I really liked what you had to say, but I was really hoping that you were going to tell me about what Priestess at the Altar is, and who are you, and what is this really all about? What are you hoping? What are we going to get from this, and what are you hoping to achieve by giving us these Priestess at the Altar talks? So I'm going to hopefully tie that in with this, because this parable, or this sermon, or this story, or however you want to think of it, that was gifted to us by the gospel of our Mother God, kind of summarizes a lot of the beliefs that I have. So, but I'm going to try and be brief, and I'm going to try my best to tie those things together. Okay, so in my little introductory video, which you've probably watched, and if you haven't, it's on the YouTube channel under the Priestess at the Altar, just like these episodes are. I was looking for this kind of Sunday service to be a motivational way to start my week, and I wasn't finding it. And I thought, if I'm looking for this, there are probably other goddess worshipers or people on a goddess path that would also like this. So I decided to just do it, because I figured if I wanted it, other people wanted it. I saw a need in my community. As a priestess of the goddess, when I see a need in my community, I believe that it is my duty to then try and fulfill that need if I am qualified to the best of my ability. What qualifies me? Well, I have a lifetime of spiritual work and growth, and I have taken a lot of different paths. I've been on a goddess path all my life, at least that's what I believe. I didn't always know that that was the path that I was on. I believe that the goddess path and the path of love, love being the root cause of everything, and love also being the highest value available to all of us. Like love makes the world go round. Yes, it does. And when it doesn't, it should. So what qualifies me to be a priestess or to do this? I mean, on the one hand, nothing, right? I'm just a woman with a platform because I have a podcast. So I already had the tools and the social media channels. But I also felt like I had a message. I have suffered emotionally, and my pain is my own, and I can own that. And I have been depressed, and I have been suicidal, and I have been at the jumping off place, just like a lot of other people. My circumstances do not matter. Our emotional bottoms, I call them bottoms, right? Like that lowest of low, the lowest points in your life. Those are the great equalizer, right? Our emotional bottoms are the same, regardless of our circumstances. This is what I believe. You are free to argue with me or have your own beliefs. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. I've been on a goddess path my whole life. I may not have always known that that's the path I was on, but I sincerely believe that every spiritual path that I took was leading me to where I am today. And where I am today, you've heard me describe myself this way before in the podcast. I am a goddess loving, goddess worshiping monotheist who believes in what I call the diamond head God, which is that, yes, I believe in and have worked with in witchcraft and other metaphysical, supernatural ways, multiple goddesses in my lifetime. Excuse me, but at the end of the day, I believe that those goddesses are all facets of a singular source. So that is what I believe. And that singular source is who I am a priestess of. I consider the work that I do, including the podcast, in service to the goddess that I believe in. I believe that it is that goddess who saved me from that dark place. In this sermon, I guess that would be where the roots are, right? That underworld. When I worked with Hecate, my analogy was the cave, right? I had to go into the cave. I had to do some deep healing work, but I could not do that work alone. I needed the goddess to help me, or I was never going to come back. I was never going to get out of that place that I was in, of and by myself. I believe that I have personal power as a woman, but I also think that sometimes I need help. This is just me, and we can talk about this after the show. So when I decided to do Priestess at the altar, it was because I wanted to share my experience, because I wanted to bring a message of hope to anyone who suffered or is suffering like I did. That is what I want for everyone to know, that she loves us more than we could possibly imagine, and that she does not ask anything of us. One of the most profound moments I've had in the last couple of years, I was doing a group guided meditation with Flora We of Earth Song, the founder of Earth Song Temple. And some of you know and or have worked with Flora. And in that meditation, she said, and it was so simple. And it's like I knew this information, but sometimes you're just in the zone and it hits you on some deeper level. That's what happened to me, because she said she was doing this guided visualization and the goddess was standing there kind of having a conversation with you. And she said to you, and of course, the goddess is speaking to me in Flora's voice, right? And she said, there isn't anything that you need to do to make me love you. And there isn't anything that you can do that will make me not love you. That is what I want you to know. I carry Flora's message to you. You don't need to do anything. This is a goddess who doesn't judge, who doesn't require anything of you, who wants you to be happy, who wants you to feel good, who, you know what I mean? It's just a miracle has happened in my life. And I want you to know that it can happen in yours. That her love can move mountains. That is why I'm doing Priestess at the altar. So, what does that have to do with the sermon on the apple seed? Well, I think, it ties into my beliefs and what I wanted to talk about today, this whole love is the seed of truth. I think that her love, if love is the seed of truth, I think her love is the seed of all truth. Her love is the seed of all truth. Her love is the seed of the truth of our humanity. Her love is the seed of the truth of our evolution and creation. And, one of the things that she says in the sermon is all of this has happened, pretty much everything that's ever happened. Everything that's happening has happened 10,000 times before and it's going to happen 10,000 times again. I believe that. When I read this sermon, it reminded me of one of my favorite quotes. And if you watch Fear the Walking Dead, you'll be very familiar with this quote. But it's actually a quote from Julian of Norwich, who was an early Christian mystic and anchorite. And the quote is, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. But the truth and love paradigm, I don't believe that you can have love without the seed of truth. For it is the truth that we know that motivates love. Does that make sense? Like tolerance of others, for example. If we accept people for who they are, we love in spite of shortcomings or negative behavior because we know the truth of that person, that they are a child of the goddess just as we are, flawed and imperfect and doing the best that they can. Why do most romantic relationships fail? The root cause is usually some form of a failure to be honest, either with each other or failure with oneself, because we can't be honest with another person if we can't be honest with ourselves. Love and honesty go hand in hand. I like the idea that our mother has given us the seed, right? She's given us the seed, but not quite the whole apple, right? because she's the God and I'm the child, right? I am on a need to know basis about my life. That is what I believe. I am on a need to know basis because I'm not the manager. I'm just not the manager. She's given us the rudimentary ideas of the whole tree, right? Like she's talked about the branches and all that, but there are things that we simply cannot understand on this plane, right? Things we can't understand in our earthly bodies, but we know enough, we know enough to seek truth, and we know enough to love because we know that these things are important to her. That's why they're inherent in us. That's why they're inherent in us. But so in this, but she also kind of hints to us that there's always more knowledge out there to be revealed, right? And so she sets us forth on this kind of lifelong dual quest for truth and for love. But we understand that what does it say? That to know the absolute of either is to pass beyond knowing, which I guess means to croak, right? But we seek anyway. Why? Why do we seek when we know that to know the absolute is to die? I think that we seek because that is the goddess's will for us. That is her will for us, is to seek. And, to find some things and not others. It's like a giant hide and seek. Love and truth is the goddess's giant hide and seek game that she plays with us. I just thought of that now. Yeah, it's just one big giant hide and seek game. And she laughs and she has fun with us. She values that, I think. And if we try and be aligned with her will for us, I think we have fun too, right? Okay, so I'm going to read the last passage in this sermon. It says, "Yet be not afraid, for the seed of truth shall be your guide and your protection, and shall bring you to deliverance. And I give to you one word which shall conquer every danger. That word is love. And the humility that flows from love. Receive with love the seed of truth, and all things shall be well." Right? There it is. All shall be well. And all shall be well. And all manner of things shall be well. I think I'm going to get that tattooed on my flank. Like, goddess knows I have enough of it. So I think that I want to go back to, in the rest of the, without reading the whole thing, in the rest of that sermon, it speaks a lot about being in harmony with the apple tree and the sphere. She talks about the music of the spheres, and being in harmony with that, with the tree, and with truth, and with love, and ultimately being in harmony with her. And I think of that as being in alignment, right? Like my will, my self-will, my free will being in alignment with her will for me, right? Because she has given us free will. I think of it this way, she has a plan for us, but she doesn't like move us around like chess pieces on a board, right? Her plan is like kind of the overall picture. And then our will decides how hard, how difficult we want to make it, right? Because most of the time we just get in our own way. I say all the time, the only war I ever fight most of the time is between me and me, right? Because I believe that that is the human condition, that we are our own worst enemy, that inner critic that we all have is that is our burden. That is our burden. That is our cross to bear. Forget about Jesus. We've got the inner critic, right? Yeah, that is our burden. That is our curse, if you will. Sometimes my free will is a good thing, but as with most people, sometimes I'm coming from a place not of free will, but of control. I want to control things. I like to control things because the other thing that haunts me is fear. And when I'm afraid, my instinct is to want to control because I think if I'm in control, then I don't want to be afraid. Maybe this isn't true for you guys, but this has just been my experience and part of what I've been able to overcome at least a little bit through my spiritual journey and through surrender to her will. Because when I'm out of alignment with her, that is when negative emotion shows up. That is when anger, depression, impatience, mistrust of the people I love. So I try and stay consciously connected to her, most largely through prayer and meditation. I don't do a lot of work at my altars anymore, only because I don't find it necessary to do so. I have a daily practice, so I feel pretty connected up most of the time. Those are the tools that are my Appleseed to the truth and love of her. And I get a little bit more every day, because there's always more, right? She told us there's always more, my friends. Today, when you log off YouTube, I want you to reflect on this Appleseed. What is the seed? What is the seed of truth to you? What seed has she bestowed upon you? And what are your sacred truths? Do you love with honesty? Do you have a sense of the other seeds, the apple as a whole, the tree itself, the other apples, the roots? What's your understanding beyond the tree? What has your seeking knowledge of truth revealed to you? And do you accept this cycle of life and death and rebirth? And finally, maybe you should have an actual apple while you're contemplating these questions, or cut it in half and ponder that star. That can't hurt, right? Okay. That's all I have for you today. Stay tuned for the after chat. Have a terrific week. And until next week, may the peace and the love of the goddess be with you.